Namaste, my dear friends. Today, 23rd January, is the birth anniversary of our great hero, Subhas Chandra Bose. He was the real icon of India's freedom struggle. Today marks the birth anniversary of one of India's most iconic freedom fighters, Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. The nation comes together to pay tribute and celebrate the life of the valiant leader who played a pivotal role in India's struggle for independence. The history of nations on this globe is replete with accounts of men and women who displayed heroic qualities and were instrumental in accomplishing tasks that brought about big beneficial changes. The world is privy to nations coexisting peacefully and also nations invading, conquering and plundering other nations. The British rule over the Bharat continent was perhaps the darkest chapter in the nation's otherwise long and illustrious history. The British, who came to our subcontinent as a trading East India Company in mid 18th century, gradually established their political hold by way of the company planting its feet initially through cunning, deceit and guile, and subsequently by usurping smaller states and kingdom of Bharat. It was a well-planned and subtly devised design of imperialist expansion. It was motivated by the priestly Catholic class who exhorted its countrymen to conquer the countries of pagans, establish their sovereignty over them, rule them, plunder them, and even convert them to its faith. The yoke of British imperialism extended its stranglehold over many countries in South Asia, East Asia, and the Middle Asia. But Bharat, the traditionally peace-loving nation with sublime culture and with the innate perspective of regarding the entire world as one family, took some time to reconcile itself with the tremendous political shock. Through the middle of 19th century, the British East India Company had subjugated almost half of the geographical territory of Bharat. The 1857 Mutiny of Independence in Bharat brought its many states together in fighting the British to overthrow its regime in the areas where they had established their rule. But the mutiny could not succeed due to many factors, notably among which was the black sheep among the elite of this nation, who colluded and collaborated with the British for their own selfish gains. It was these few traitors who sabotaged and put to the efforts of our valiant freedom fighters. Post 1857, the British East India Company rule was replaced by the rule of the British monarchy, and Bharat became the part of the large British Empire. Thence followed the systematic plunder and economic emasculation of Bharat alongside its cultural distortion through a well-crafted set of acts and laws that set the agenda for decades of colonial depredation. The pious land of Bharat produced in the decades to follow some illustrious men and women whose traits and tasks will be etched in gold in the chronicles of history. In the year 1897, on the 23rd of January, in the city of Cuttack in Odisha, a son was born to Janakinath Bose and Prabhavati Devi, a son who was to change the tumultuous history of Bharat. He grew up to the Subhas Chandra Bose, the true hero of India's freedom struggle. He is popularly called Netaji to this day. Subhas spent his early years in the elite family of his birth till he was sent to the University of Cambridge for higher studies to prepare himself for the Indian Civil Services examination. In 1920, he passed that examination with distinction, securing fourth rank overall, and was at the threshold of an elite professional career. But Subhas was cut out by Providence for higher and subliminal tasks. In 1921, he read about the turmoil in Bharat because of the nationalistic freedom movement. He could not hold himself and returned to Bharat to participate in it after resigning from Indian civil service. He joined the non-cooperation movement started by Mahatma Gandhi, working under the guidance of Gandhi and tutelage of Chittaranjan Das. He became a youth educator and commandant of Bengal Congress volunteers. Bose became General Secretary of the Indian National Congress in 1927 and in 1938 was elected as its president. But in drawing a nationalistic agenda for Bharat and a plan for achieving its independence, his views clashed with those of Mahatma Gandhi. His views were forward-looking, pragmatic, and consonant with political reality, and Gandhi were idealistic but muddled, dreamy, and dubious. Subhas's ideas were imaginative and Gandhi's hypothetical, and the inevitable had to happen. Subhas's passion and single-minded commitment to his mission was far too stronger than Gandhi's approach of appeasing communal groups, playing to the gallery of masses, and camouflaging his apparent collusion with the British. Subhas parted ways with the Congress with his forward bloc groups in 1939. The year 1939 saw the outbreak of the Second World War. Subhas Chandra Bose organized the Indian National Army or Azad Hind Fauj. It was a dedicated band of soldiers drawn largely from the British Indian prisoners of war in Japan's jails. Consequent upon Japanese victory over the British in Southeast Asian countries, the Indian National Army was a new version of the Indian Independence League formed earlier by an Indian revolutionary Ras Bihari Bose who had escaped from Bharat and was living in Japan for many years. He had set up the league with the support of Indians living in countries of Southeast Asia. Subhas Bose escaped from India in 1941 and went to Germany to work for India's independence. In 1943, he came to Singapore to rebuild the INA to a 45,000 soldier strength. On the historical day of 21st October 1943, Subhas Bose, who was now being popularly addressed as Netaji, proclaimed the formation of independent India, Azad Hind, in Singapore. Netaji went to the Japanese-occupied Andaman and hoisted there the flag of India. Netaji believed that with the help of Azad Hind Fauj, supported by its rank enemy Japan, and an engineered revolt inside India, the British rule over India could be ended, and right he was. The Azad Hind Fauj, raising the slogans of Delhi Chalo and Jai Hind, aroused the sentiments of Indians and inspired them inside and outside their country. Netaji rallied together with Indians of all hues, religion, caste, and region spread over Southeast Asia for liberation of India. The color and complexion of the NIA was exquisite, its sentiment high, at an unprecedented level, and its appeal awesome. Netaji charismatically signaled to the soldiers of the British Indian Navy from his platform after the cessation of the Second World War. His magnetic personality pulled hordes of Navy soldiers into a massive revolt, and the British went into a panic mode. The time had come for the British to leave India, and leave they did, but not before they had cunningly used their nurtured and nourished Indian stooges to perform the partition of India. With the help of these very stooges, they declared Netaji as a renegade and pronounced him dead in an air crash in Japan's Taiwan on 18th August 1945. But the writer is one of those who believe that Netaji's death was a hoax prolonged by the governments in Bharat for decades on under the influence of British, because circumstantial evidence suggests so. The foremost element of this evidence is the fact that the then British Prime Minister Clement Attlee, British PM, from 1945 to 1951, who in 1956 on a visit to Bharat had called Netaji INA as the main factor that forced the British to leave India, and that the role played by Gandhi's non-cooperation movement was minimal. Understandably, Netaji lived on in anonymity as a Gumnami Baba Sadhu till his death on September 16, 1985 in the UP state of Bharat. We have to give credit to the Narendra Modi government for declassifying Netaji files and helping to bring the above stark realities to light. Unlike many of his narrow, conceited and selfish political contemporaries, Netaji was truly secular, genuinely and deeply patriotic, visionary and audacious. But for him, Bharat would not have achieved independence, and with better luck, he would have led united large Bharat as its prime minister for a long spell and steered this great country to its deserved glory and pride of place among the community of nations. Our salutations to Neta Subhas Chandra Bose on his 127th birth anniversary on January 23, 2024. His spirit will live on. Among all the leaders in India during freedom struggle, Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose was the most beloved leader in India, and even today he is remembered as the real hero of India's freedom struggle. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar, my dear friends. Thank you. Namaste.